How is everybody doing tonight? It is Tuesday, April 16th. We're easing into spring here in Edmonton. We don't really have spring here. It mostly goes from like winter to summer. Easing into it. Tuesday night, a new spot. I hope everybody enjoys the conversation we're going to have tonight. We'll see who jumps in here in a bit. With me always is my main man, the Blue Rocketeer. There he is. Almost retired warrant officer. Fucking Morgan
Almost,
Warren.
yeah, right?
Yeah, here we go. Tuesday nights. I like it. I got too much shit to do Wednesdays. We had to do this Tuesdays, which I like better because I want everybody to listen to Mad Dog's Rabbit Hole on Revolution Radio live on Wednesday nights. So tonight we're talking about, so there might have been some confusion here. So let me caveat some of the posts I made on Instagram and Twitter and shit about what this show is about. So I had stolen valor in all caps. So that's kind of fucking a cheap shot on my end because you think we're going to start calling guys out and shit. So let's caveat this right out of the gate. I'm not calling out anybody. I'm going to look at my research and how I got to this research over the last couple weeks, and names will be named, but like I wasn't there. Okay. So I'm using information I have from people who were either on the ground when these operations were going on or have direct knowledge of what's fucking true and what's not. So let's caveat that. I'm not here to call anybody out. I wasn't on Operation Neptune Spear when they killed bin Laden. I was not on Operation Red Wings. In fact, most of the ops I was on didn't have a name. It was just a fucking op. Okay. I wasn't on too many ops that had cool names. I don't know. Were you? That had
Oh,
fucking names?
no, I don't really. I don't think there's a couple. There was a couple that were named operations, but I don't really
Yeah, I
remember.
didn't really pay attention to them. I just went right to groupings and tasks. Like, what the fuck do you want me to do, where and when? And that's it.
Yeah,
I don't care
exactly.
for the fucking name of the op. Like, that doesn't matter to me.
You know,
But
some nerd ops.
yeah, so I'm going to talk about stolen valor, and that's kind of based on some stuff that we've both been looking at lately, specifically in the United States of America's special operations community, more specifically in the Navy SEAL community, because it feels like every SEAL these days has a New York Times bestseller book and a podcast. And I'm not shitting on the SEAL community because I know there's a lot of professionals out there that don't, and there's a lot of podcasts that are good, specifically the Sean Ryan Show and Mike Drop with Mike Ritland because Mike's a dog guy. So I appreciate those shows, but they just my algorithm just feeds me this shit, right? And I'm not a fucking special ops fanboy, but you see these things and you watch them, and then the YouTube algorithm just starts belt feeding you more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And we're gonna get to the most recent one that we've both watched. That's driving this conversation that leads to the crux of what I want to talk about. Okay, so before we get into it, let's talk about what stolen valor is, and you can just springboard off me on this. I've kind of broken it down into three buckets. So stolen valor, the common one that everybody knows is when a civilian that's never served a day in the military shows up at some parade somewhere, Remembrance Day or whatever, wearing military uniforms and headdress and medals and fucking badges and stuff that person never served a day in the military. So that's kind of like the first level of stolen valor, and it's probably the one most people are familiar with. The second level would be, we both seen this, is guys that are in the military that are wearing medals they didn't earn, or skill badges like Trump jump wings, Pathfinder badge, whatever, that they never earned.
Yeah.
Which is fucking ridiculous. Like, you're going to get called out, man. Like, there's no way you're not. Canadian military is just too small. And then the third level is kind of diving into what we're getting into right now. And that's where you've got guys that are either embellishing their actions on deployment or outright lying about them and then monetizing off of that. And that's the back end of this conversation today, is the monetizing, right? Which is, to me, is the worst. And what I mean by that is, let's say you bought a book. Maybe it was called Lone Survivor. And then you find out that maybe that was all bullshit. Like, you feel ripped off, feel cheated. Like, I paid money for this book, I read the story and believed it, but we'll get into that. That's kinda what we're gonna get in at when and also wanna get into the risks of monetizing some of the things I don't like, and where I'm going with this is I don't wanna see, Canadian soldiers or, Canadian Navy, Air Force, who I don't wanna see Canadian service persons fall into this trap that it seems like is becoming a bit of a fucking epidemic down in the United States. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, we have a few, Canadians that are, achieved lower levels of fame, I guess, or just guys that have written, books. Like there's numerous books written by, guys that served in two commando. Um,
Yeah, and I've
and
read a lot of them. It's the same.
I've read all of those in particular, like The Sharp End, Eat Your Weakest Man. I've read all those books, and they're excellent. Really enjoyed them, and especially if anybody, like I said, everybody's familiar with like Lone Survivor
Yeah,
and Snipe and American Sniper and shit like that. And that's great. But if you want to read some good, Canadian military books, like it was like like The Sharp End, Eat Your Weakest Man. Was it? Jody Middick. He wrote a couple of books that are
I got
really
his book. It's called Canadian Sniper, isn't it?
Canadian
Or
Sniper.
something like
Yeah,
that.
I haven't.
Yeah.
I believe it. It's
I
a
have
newer
it.
book.
I
I
have
haven't
it,
read
and I
it.
haven't read it yet. I got a
I haven't
stack
read
of
it yet
books I
either.
haven't read because I'm fucking going blind and I need glasses and shit. I can't
I just
read.
haven't read. I haven't read
Give
it
me the
yet.
audiobook, man.
Yeah, and I'll do that too. So there are some. If you want to read some, Canadian content out there, I know there are some people that are a bit more interested in it. Yeah, by all means, there are some good ones out there. But yeah, that's
Yeah, no,
definitely
for sure. And I'm not against that. Like, let's
no, not at
jump
all.
ahead here. I have no problem with people telling stories. And if so, I'm going to rewind back. The first military podcast I ever saw was during COVID, and it was the Sean Ryan show, right? You've watched his shit,
Yeah,
right? And I was kind of using that as a template as to how I was going to structure my show.
mhm,
The sit down ones that you and I did first,
yeah,
right? Like, how does he do it? And it wasn't never about he didn't talk about himself. He gave his quick bio. He was a former SEAL and a former CIA contractor guy or whatever, blah blah blah.
yeah,
But he gets cool guests on that get to tell stories. There wasn't a lot of platforms, or at least not that I'm aware of, that were like that. So I was like, that's fucking great. This guy's doing what I want to do.
yeah,
I'm just gonna do it a little bit differently, right? So that's fine if you want to do that. It's where the line between what really happened, and what you're saying to make money. That's what we're gonna get into today, and that's the shit that fucking pisses me off, to be quite honest. And I get it. Like, a lot of times, hey Derek, it's like don't get me wrong, when you're and you can speak to anybody that's served overseas and been in some weird shit, your version in your brain of what happened in that high intensity time space versus everybody else's is often different. Does that make sense?
yeah, absolutely.
Like, how I perceive the events of insert day here that this happened, blah, 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 or whatever, might not be the same as what you saw that day,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe I don't know.
No, I know, like Chris, like I think like we all know guys that we're not too fond of that tell stories, and we're like, man, I was there. That never happened.
Well, that's okay. That's a totally yeah. That's the other end of the spectrum. Is that like that's complete fucking bullshit. Like, I'm talking about
Or it's
pe
not so much that it didn't happen, but you're like, it didn't necessarily happen like
happened
that
that
by itself.
way.
Yeah,
And I know, stories get bigger and bigger in the
yeah,
mass every time you hear the fucking things.
yeah,
It's when these guys write these books and shit, they're like, no, that's not quite correct.
yeah.
So I want to separate that up front. Again, just so we're all clear, we're not here to shit on anybody. All the information that we're using today it basically comes out of one podcast that we both watched just recently,
Yeah.
which I'll get into in a second. And it brought up some very interesting points that made me think about some messaging, if you will, that I want to have for some things that might happen here in Canada in the future. So right now, the National Post has a series called Heroes Among Us. Did you read any of that stuff?
Yeah, that was the one that Rick Hillier wrote it.
Right.
Yeah.
And the first one talks about a bunch of shit that happened at the fucking white school in '06.
Yep.
Right when Von Ingram got killed, and I think it was Dallaire. Can't remember.
Yeah, Kevin Dallaire. Yeah, it was,
Kevin,
yeah.
Kevin, Pat Tower was there, a couple other dudes, and there's a bunch of
Yeah,
guys,
Willie McDonald, all those guys. Yeah.
right, that were what the hell did they get? Star of Valor,
Military Valor. Yeah.
right, which is the second highest award, and there's a big push in Canada to elevate these guys to get the Victoria Cross, which is Canada's highest honor. Now, a funny thing is, Canada has never issued this medal out ever.
And
Every
it's existed since 1993.
Right? Every Canadian VC winner, the last one being Smokey Smith, he was the last guy to pass away. That was from the Brits. The Brits issued that medal out. So there's a big push on to elevate some guys up to the VC, and I don't know how the fuck that works or not. And some of them might get there. And then I know what's going to happen. There's going to be a bunch of people to push them for a book deal. And it's like there's a bunch of books written already. And this is like, I'm just going to offer you some old man advice, you know? And I want to trust these guys if it comes to that they're going to do it the right way. So where are we going with this? Let's start at the beginning because I feel scatterbrained. Here's Wade. We both watched a podcast called the Anti-Hero Podcast, and it was episode 66. Now, the Anti-Hero Podcast is by a former U.S. Green Beret and a ex-cop. And they never intended to turn their pod into like this expose podcast, but a bunch of things led in that direction. And they recently had on retired senior chief Eric Deming, who was a retired Navy SEAL. I think he did around 30 years in the SEALs. And he came out and basically called out Marcus Luttrell. Well, everybody. Mostly Marcus Luttrell. The episode was about Marcus Luttrell, Operation Red Wings, based on a book that you know of, and the movie starring Mark Wahlberg called
Lone Survivor.
The fucking Lone Survivor. Right? Great movie. Love the movie. Great story. Didn't read the book, but I did see the movie. And I'm not going to sit here and paraphrase that entire podcast. You can watch it. Episode 66, Anti-Hero Podcast. Interesting show.
Yep.
And it's Eric Deming is probably, as far as I know, the first guy to come out in the SEAL community and point blank with a stone face, and he has no book deal and he has no movie deal, calling bullshit based on direct. This isn't a guy that got out, like you said earlier before we came live. This isn't some dude that got out in 88. He has direct knowledge, of what happened and when and where. And there's all kinds of other guys coming out, throwing darts and chucking shit, but none of them was committal as or as point blank as he was on that show. So that really kind of fucking blew my mind. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he also calls out Rob O'Neill. There's a bunch of controversy. So Rob O'Neill, by his own words, was the first guy to shoot bin Laden. There's no argument that Rob O'Neill shot bin Laden. The argument is, was he the actual, number one man through the door that put rounds into bin Laden before? And that's what he's claiming. And both of these individuals, Marcus Luttrell and Rob O'Neill, I'm not shitting on anybody here, have made fucking millions of dollars off of their stories, off of speaking engagements. They're wealthy men. How it got there, whether it's corruption in the command, I don't know. That's not my business. I hear all kinds of shit on the pod, but that's the crux of where we're going with this conversation when it comes to stolen valor. Because if at the end of the day, if you monetized off of actions you didn't take as a member of the military, you're a fucking shitty human being. Full stop. You're a shitty human being. You cashed in on something somebody else did or made up a story that didn't happen. and you made a bunch of fucking money off of it, you're a shitty person to me. And again, I wasn't on those ops. I'm going by what I'm hearing. I'm going by what I've read. I'm not saying Marcus Luttrell is a shitty human being. I'm not saying fucking Rob O'Neill's a liar. I'm saying you got people in your own community, in the SEAL community, saying these things, and other guys that are it's slowly unraveling. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. You know, even Mike Glover and Andy Stump sat down and they kind of hum-hoed and hawed on a different show. There's like 28 pods on this. Your rabbit holes will send you down your YouTube rabbit hole will send you down this fucking path of never ending where you just stop and stop reading it. Eric Deming also went on to honorable mentions. He had some unkind words for both Chris Kyle and Jocko Willink. And I'm not going to get into that because it's not relevant to this show. But if you want to check out the full thing so you understand kind of what drove us to what we're talking about today, I would definitely look at the Anti-Hero podcast, specifically episode 66, which is what we're referring to. So I don't think that, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that this is a problem in the Canadian military yet.
No.
I'm going to pour my Positive Mike. I have my own beer brand here. Thanks to Positive Mike. Sponsored plug midway through here. Fire in the Hole lager. You know, as long as it doesn't dump all over the fucking place.
I gotta try one of these things. I've never had one of his beers yet.
This is a jalapeno infused lager. It's not bad.
Well, I'll have to give it a whirl.
All I have to do is not spill it all over. I can't pour like I used to. not while I'm under pressure and he's watching or listening. So yeah, not a problem in Canada yet, but could be a problem. And it just seems to be ever growing down there. Like, I don't know.
I guess my only I'll play like a little bit of a devil's advocate to it all. Like I said,
that's why you're here.
Yeah, I know. I don't know like Marcus Luttrell. I don't know any of these people. I've read the books. I've seen the movies like everybody else. And so then you've got an unknown guy, unknown to like me and you and most people, but I'm sure, allegedly well known in the SEAL community who's coming out and calling bullshit. Okay, fair enough, right? So I guess my retort would be, is what he's saying correct, or
that's
is he just fucking sour grapes because he's because they made a whole shitload of money and he never, that could be
and that's why you got to take everything with a grain of salt. But I mean, they're citing all this evidence that there's pred feeds, there's reports, there's AARs, so that's after action reviews. When basically, whenever you're on a big op, for every civilian out there listening, you come back, you have to write down what happened.
Yeah.
Right? You have to write it all down. And the accounts directly from the AARs do not align with the evolution of the story that started feeding the bank account. The pred feed, Predator is a drone. You guys hear all about drones on the news all the time. It uses active IR infrared cameras to watch what everybody's doing and where they are. The number of bad guys doesn't add up based on what the pred feed shows, based on what, when the Rangers went in later, or the Marines, I can't remember, or both.
Rangers,
they're doing what's called a BDA, battle damage assessment. And they're like, nah, this doesn't add up to 200 bad guys.
Yeah.
So the arguable numbers are between, I don't know, like 8 and 15 or 20 or whatever.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. So now you're talking about, is this an embellished story? Right? You're sitting around the mast 2 years later. Remember on that op when there was 500 guys? Well, there was 8, whatever. So it's looking like that. It's like they're pointing towards what on the surface sounds like credible evidence to say your story's not accurate. What you're saying is not reflective of the information that we have based on a post-operational review of what happened.
Yeah.
Right? And the most damaging thing, and again, this was a snippet, so I don't trust these fucking things. Marcus Luttrell did an interview with Anderson Cooper and basically called himself a coward.
Yeah.
And said his buddy was up the hill, calling out to him because he was getting fucking lit up. And Marcus just said, I just covered my ears and put my weapon down. And then the dudes that rescued him said, he had full mags and shit.
Yeah.
He wasn't rounds expended, didn't have a broken leg, walked out under his own power. So like, there's all kinds of different.
Yeah.
Now,
I guess so. Then, Chris, so you have these books in Hollywood and everything else. Um, I know that well, I would think that in Canada, if something like that happened and it was absolute bullshit, you would have higher ups, guys. If there was an embellishment, of something that happened in like 2006, 2007, 2008 in Afghanistan, you'd have everybody from, No Hook Private right up to Rick Hillier that would come out and be like, no, man, that never
well,
happened.
that's the advantage we have of being
Yeah.
so small is you can't
Yeah.
get away
Well,
with
I
it.
guess what I'm saying is that like if that's that story to get to the level that it is that the entire world knows about it, I'll say like Lone Survivor in particular because of the movie and whatnot.
Yeah.
Pretty much like the um, essentially like the chain of command, they had to have been in on it.
Well, so that's what Buddy's alluding to is that they've already had some fuck ups
Yeah,
and they don't need. There's a lot of conversation in that pod about the SEAL brand,
yeah,
right? And if anybody just dog, they went from being a very secretive organization, much like JTF2 is, which that's slowly coming apart at the seams. There's guys coming out and telling their stories,
good.
which is good. I think we're a little too secretive when it comes to our guys. Um, but they're turning it into a brand, and you see in the Trident on the cover of books and shit like that. So now in that pod, they talk about protecting the SEAL brand and the name, and it's like they didn't need an embarrassment. And sounds like maybe don't know, wasn't there again, but it feels like that the command is burying it, and that's fuck, dude. I've lived that shit
Mhm.
directly.
Now,
Very good
so
friend of mine, my roommate, got blue on blued in Afghanistan and took a 120 heat round from a tank, and that got covered up like fucking that.
yeah,
And nobody wants to talk about that. But that happened. Okay. I was there. Or in theater. I wasn't there. I was fucking overdoing my own shit. And there's times when people don't want embarrassment. They don't want to admit failures, especially on a high profile, high powered organization like the SEALs or Delta or Green, whoever, or JTF2 or CSOR. So did they cover shit up? Yeah, they cover shit up because I fucking lived through it personally. So I don't know. What do you think?
I mean potentially, but I think now, with the current situation globally, I mean, if they came out tomorrow on national news, they're thinking, you know what, it's all been proven. It's all bullshit. These guys aren't that fucking badass. I think that does more bad than good from a bigger picture. And what I'm getting at here is that like right now, like if bad guys, think that holy shit, like Navy SEALs are en route. Like people are that's cause for concern. You're like, oh shit. Like if these guys are showing up, we're all gonna die. And I think like there's a certain psychological part to that is beneficial and we need to keep that around.
Oh,
Uh,
I agree with you. I
well,
agree.
point in case, especially right to the Navy SEALs, you've got like SEAL teams, like, 1 through 8 now currently. There might be more than that. I don't know. But for the longest time, like back when SEAL teams stood up, like there was SEAL Team 1 and then they had like SEAL Team 6, but there was no SEAL Team 2 through 5.
No,
The reason they had
Marchenko did that to head fake the bad guys, which I
That's
think's fucking
that's why they
brilliant,
did it. So
right?
there was like a SEAL team, and then they had like SEAL Team 6. Like they had 2 SEAL teams, but they had them numbered like 1 and fucking 6 or 1 and 8. I can't remember. But it made it look like there were way more of these guys than they did. Essentially, to head fake the enemy because they're like, number one, these guys are badass and they're elite, and number two, holy shit, there's like 8 teams of these guys. Like we're fucked,
No, and I get
So
that, but the toss up now is like is it comes down to a trust issue, especially for the if specifically, and I don't want to turn this pod into talk about the fucking Navy SEALs because I don't really care
yeah,
about them. They're,
yeah.
they're not in my sphere of influence. Um, hard hitters, right on. I think I might have worked with one and didn't know it, and two on my first roto, but I had no idea because I didn't really talk to you.
No,
But
I've shot a couple. I shot a competition, a sniper comp over in Ireland. I met some guys from SEAL Team 8.
Yeah.
Shot against them. You know, I essentially lived with them, like slept next to them for 2 weeks or some shit like that.
Yeah, there's a
Excellent
bunch of
guys.
dudes in
Like
Bagram, but I don't know any fucking Navy
I
SEALs.
do, I do, and like top shelf, top tier, excellent guys, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, they're the tip of the fucking spear. But
Yeah,
at the end of the day, there has to be trust. And when
yeah.
you got a bunch of guys, and I'm not saying they are, but there's people in their community calling them out, and they monetize and made a lot of fucking money. And we're just talking about 2 guys, and I don't even there could be 10 guys. And there's again, if you go down the YouTube rabbit hole, there's countless shows about
Okay,
corruption in the SEALs
so
and all this shit. And I'm like, okay, well, you're talking about corruption in general within the military. That could happen in any military. I mean, this is the fucking where I'm gonna go with the back end of this.
I mean,
Go ahead.
so is it, are people pissed because the story is a lie and it got out of control, allegedly? Or are they pissed because like they're making a whole bunch of fucking money at it?
Don't know.
Because I
Either
mean, so
it
you
doesn't even
know,
matter. Either way, either which way you flip that conversation, it's still a trust issue. You got
it is, I
guys
guess.
who it's a
uh,
trust issue.
How
Uh,
so?
well, because okay, so if I'm the fucking guy who actually shot Bin Laden in the face first rounds,
Yeah.
who's a cool, quiet professional. His name is Red, apparently. Nobody knows who the fuck he is, or some people allegedly do. And he's just watching his brother making millions off of this, but he still doesn't say anything. Like, how do you trust the other guy? You know, it's a trust issue. You and me go do something, and then you fucking go make $1 million off of it, but I keep quiet. I don't trust you anymore. There's no
I don't know.
trust.
Well, I don't know. Maybe,
That's what I'm saying.
okay. Well, what if, say, like, say if, me and you, were the first guys through the door, and I shot fucking Bin Laden in the face first, but you made fucking millions off of it. Because I'd be like, you know what, Chris? You'd be like, hey man, you should write a book. And I'm like, I don't want to. It's just not my jam. I'll be like, but if you want to, go ahead. I'll be like, but man, I won't say shit. I was like, but give me a cut. So even a guy like, some of these guys that are writing these books, so if they're making millions of dollars, I'd be interesting to see who they're giving some of that money to.
Well, that's a whole other fucking conspiracy, man. That money's getting kicked up. I don't know.
I'm not saying kicked up, but like, but I mean, like, I don't know. I think that, like, if okay, if you did this or you did that, and but really it was me that did it, like, I guess I don't really fucking care. And I think it's not that,
Well, you hit
it,
her on the head. I don't give a fuck what they're doing down there
yeah, and I don't think that most
until it
guys would
impacts our guys up here, and we're gonna kind of get into that next, right?
it's like Chris, it's like, you go to the, we'll go to Legion on Remembrance Day, and you'll see some no hook fuck, you'll see some fucking guy with a single medal, a general campaign star with like 3 bars on it, right? And then you'll
Yeah,
see some fucking cook or some clerk in the Navy who's got a rack of medals 3 feet long, and people are like, that guy's a fucking war hero. But realistically, the guy who's the war hero is the guy with the single medal fucking swinging there, right? Because
yeah, I know, but we only we know
but what
that.
exactly, we know that. So
Like
at the end of the
a
day,
civvy doesn't know what a
no,
CD,
no,
Queen's
I know,
Jubilee, the Alberta fucking thanks for coming
I
on
know, I know.
medal,
I guess,
Canada 125, the rack of shame. And no disrespect to anybody
but
who
this is
has
what
that
I'm getting
rack.
at.
Like, good
But
for
this,
you.
but
I don't
this,
care.
this is the point that I'm getting to, though,
Yeah.
Chris.
No,
Is the fact that,
I
yes,
get it.
just like civvies don't know, and these guys will walk around like fucking tough guys. So if you monetize yourself and you tell lies and you make money, you can walk around and you've got all kinds of money, but deep down in places you don't want to talk about, you don't have the respect of your peers, right? Just like deep down,
Come on, we got
like
generals and we have
that fucking
generals in the Canadian military automatically issued specific medals to
exactly
suit the fucking
deep down
position they're in. Everybody
exactly deep
knows
down in
that.
places that these people with 12 medals, and great, you fucking you made eggs over easy in on 5 different continents. I don't give a shit. But if you got a young guy who got like three deployments in Afghanistan, who was and bullets are
Yeah, he
flying,
was
people are
number
dying,
2
that guy's a
rifleman.
fucking war hero. And I'm not trying to take away from what it is a cook does, because God knows I like fresh
Yeah,
food,
you
and
like
those
to
cooks
eat.
can make or break
But
a
at the end of the
fucking
day, that's not stolen valor. These guys are wearing it, medals that were fucking awarded to them,
yeah.
whether they're bullshit medals or not.
Yeah.
If
No, no.
young
I guess I'm
Corporal
not.
Snooks, he's got 3 bars on his Afghanistan medal, his campaign star, and he deployed fucking three and change and whatever. Yeah, that's what he did.
Yeah. I
And I
get,
get
but
it.
yeah,
Then
and
you
I'm,
got
I'm not
some
talking
fucking
about like
guy who was a postie who delivered the mail in Bosnia, Golan Heights, Cyprus, friggin'
everywhere. Yeah, yeah.
Egypt, you know,
Well, I guess,
and
but what I'm saying is just like I said, like these guys, they'll walk around and civvies don't know the difference,
no,
But
they don't.
that guy knows what he did and what he didn't do, and if he starts to try to play
Well,
himself
that's
off
why I
as a
always called
warlord,
medals salad dressing. Like, I don't give a fuck about my
yeah,
medals.
right.
Like,
But I
whatever,
guess what
man.
I'm saying is that if I was to take my deployments and my background, which like some people know, and try to, I could easily take my stupid background and tell fucking tall tales. It'd be pretty fucking easy. But the minute eventually my friends are going to hear about it, and then I'm going to lose face just amongst my
Well,
friends, and
that's we've
so it's
said
like
that a
at the
million
end, I guess
times.
at the end of the day, like you got to live, you got to be able to live with yourself. And your lies and your funny stories will be great for a little while. But once they get back to the guys that you were on the ground with, eventually, you know what? Like, you're not going to get invited to the mess anymore. You're not going out for beers on fucking Friday nights anymore all of a sudden. Why not?
Yeah, maybe the boys won't call you out, but they won't call you either.
Yeah, they won't, they might not call
Right?
you out
They
because you
won't
know
call
why?
you out, but I ain't gonna call you.
They're not gonna call you out because that's like, being, maybe a quiet professional to a fault,
Well, and that's probably what the
right?
SEALs are going through right now.
Yeah, they're being quiet professionals to a fault because they're like, who am
To
I
a
to go
fault.
around and
To
say
a
you didn't do
fault.
this or you didn't do that?
Because all it's gonna do is embarrass my community, whether it's a sniper community or
Exactly.
I
So
like for me it would be the counter ID community if I had some guy talking he dismantled, buck naked with blindfolded 600 fucking IEDs in Afghanistan. I'd be like, no, you didn't. you
exactly.
know,
So if fucking this one guy over or calling this one guy out, that could potentially like ruin the reputation
well,
of the
that's again,
entire
they're
community.
protecting the brand. So
They're
there's that
protecting the
fucking
brand.
balance right there.
Yeah,
At
but
what point, at
exactly, there
what
has to be
point do
a
you
balance.
go, at what point do you go, okay, enough's enough. It's getting out of hand. And
Yeah,
people are
fair
starting
enough.
to figure it out anyway. So
Yeah,
we got to get ahead of it. Whereas you should have got ahead of it and then you fucking didn't. Because you're
yeah,
talking about cover ups, which how many cover ups ever succeeded? Well, you don't know because the ones
no,
that did are still covered up,
covered up. Yeah,
right? So that's the trick with it. But in our world, like in the Canadian, like in the fucking SEALs, you could probably cover some shit up to a
yeah.
point because they're a tight knit community. Till somebody's had
And
enough shit.
they're
Till
special
somebody's had
operations,
enough of
and they're
watching Buddy go on stage at 30 grand a speaking engagement and just says, "Fuck this guy, I've had enough."
yeah.
But in our world, it's just too small. It's just too fucking small. So
And the
it's not
difference between,
possible
say, Chris,
here.
our world and their world, like I said, we were not special operators. So special operations guys, a lot of their shit is classified.
Oh, hey,
So
listen,
if you're
man.
like, if you're
CISO
trying to call
dudes and
somebody out on
JTF2
something,
dudes could probably cover some shit up better, but I'm
yeah,
talking conventional, normal fucking ground pounding dudes like us.
yeah, you
You
can't.
can't cover shit up.
No,
Somebody's gonna call you out. They're gonna see you at Remember Say, see you in the mess,
yeah.
or overhear that you said this, and they're gonna go, fuck you.
And
That's complete
it's gonna be
bullshit.
a lot easier to find out like units and numbers and timelines on
Yeah, for
conventional unit
sure,
operations,
man. It's too
right?
easy. Okay. Oh, I was on 309 or I was on 108.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You can
306.
you can ask around and you can kind of investigate
Yeah.
and you can figure
But
out. With
this is
special
okay.
operations, the minute you start asking questions, they could be like, "Sorry, top secret. It's need to know, right?"
Yeah,
So
but then you all
they never find
so
out.
everybody also knows another guy who's in I fucking live with one, you know?
Yeah, but it's all here. But then that's the difference between reality and hearsay, though, too, right?
Mhm. I think it's just getting back to staying on point here a bit
Yeah,
is like there's if I look at Canadian society, especially excuse me, especially politics seems to be emulating American shit. We are
yeah,
we're divisive and more polarized than we've ever been because that's the states. So now my fear is a lot of guys, especially some of these dudes that might have upgraded to a VC, are gonna be in this situation where we need a book. Now, to be fair to Marcus Luttrell, he didn't write that fucking book.
yeah.
Some British guy wrote it. And then suddenly it's like, hey, here's the book, here's the screenplay, Marcus. We need you to play ball and you're gonna be rich. So you figure out the answer what happened there.
Yeah, and
Is
and
that
and I get it.
is
Like,
that I don't want to see our guys get put in this trap and then and I'm not saying that our guys that are guys like Pat Tower and all these other dudes that got the the second highest fucking award you can get in the country, who might get upgraded to the Victoria Cross would be disingenuous. I think there's people that can manipulate you around you and twist your words and how the narrative rolls out in an effort to make more money. That's what I'm afraid
Yeah,
of.
I think say like the difference between say like say a Marcus Luttrell and say a Pat Tower or Willie McDonald is like, I mean, Willie and Pat are in their 50s now. When this happened, like that was Marcus Luttrell's first firefight,
Actually that's a good point. Yeah,
right?
this is
He
his
was like
first
20, he
time in
was
the
20
shit.
years
Yep.
old. So he gets pulled back, he gets debriefed, he tells a story, and then stuff gets
Yeah,
changed. Nah, nah,
this
nah,
is the
nah.
narrative you're gonna go with.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
so like there's been an evolution over 20 fucking years now, right? Whereas
Yep.
like if you try to pull this shit on like Willie McDonald, Willie's gonna be like jamming up your ass. Like that never happened. Like
But
he's got too much
that's
integrity. And
fucking that's how Canadians roll, man. We're like,
yeah,
"Fuck
that's it.
you."
They're like
We're
that
the
never
first
happened.
people to go, "Fuck off." That's not what happened. We're not
Because all
doing
those
that.
guys know, like Willie and Pat, they know. They're like the minute they were to pull some book
They
deal
get
or make
called
a
out.
fucking movie, they're
Exactly,
getting
right? You
called out
can't
like
hide
no
that
fucking
shit. So, like, if somebody fucking because like JT's writing a book about himself. He was supposed to come on and tell about it. I'm like dying to hear this. And I'm not making fun of your book yet.
yeah.
And I thought about it. Somebody says, "Hey man, you should write a book about counter ID shit." I'm like, "Fucking why? Why?" There's
If I was to write a book, like it'd be like the fact that I was a sniper would be like like that'd be part of the bio, and that'd be in the background, but it'd be like all the stupid shit that we did, right? Like
well, that's the thing. It's like, okay, let me explain, break this down for you. Like 80% of my military career was fucking boring,
yeah,
really boring and very uninteresting. And 20% of it was pretty cool shit.
yeah.
So
But
what are
even
you gonna do? Focus
yeah,
on the
even the cool shit,
20%?
like I'll share like a little. I think it's like a little story. I don't know if I've told this before, and I'd kind of forgotten about it actually. It was like one night. It was me and my sniper partner. We were going out and we were just going to get eyes on a village. A platoon was going to go and do a coordinate search on it the next day or something. So we were going to go in like 24 hours in
This is
advance
in Afghanistan.
in Afghanistan.
Okay, yeah.
And so like we're being all fucking badass and we're snipers and we're like, yeah, we're fucking so cool. And so we got all of our shit on and we're going, and we're going through these grape fields and stuff like that. And I slip and fall and I fall down in a grape field and I kind of slip and fall like, holy shit. And it's like the dead of night. So you know how quiet it is there, right? And then Nick just kind of leans
Yep.
up and he's like, hey man, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'm okay. He's like, already, he goes, well, shut the hell up, man. You're being too loud. We're gonna get killed. Like
Fucking
it's just like that's what my book could be about. It's
see,
like
that's the same thing. I fell
all the
down.
dumb shit that happened to me, right?
I fell down in one of those tilled field grape fucking
Yeah.
field things, and I'm just lying there like a bag of shit. My
Yeah.
weapon's all fucked up and stuck in
Yeah.
the dirt, and I'm like, "These fucking NVGs suck."
Fuck yeah.
My night vision goggles, I can't see fuck all. Why are we out here? We end up getting out. There's this bomb. It's in the middle of a field, and it made no sense why
Yeah.
it's there. I'm
Yeah.
like, this is fucking sucks,
Yeah.
man. Let's
I
just
remember, and
get
like
the
another
fuck
time,
out of here.
yeah, like we were going into like an empty village,
So that'd
and
be
we're
my book.
yeah, like another time, like I said, we're going into an empty village. We go into this one building, and as we go in, like we're not like the night vision sucks, and we go
Yeah,
in, and there's a dude that was like asleep on the floor there, and like he sees us, and we're like kind of creeping in. We didn't see him until
yeah.
he jumps up, starts screaming, he's like ah, and he just runs out, and we're just like, what just happened? Like, and I was just like, oh my
Oh,
god. So we just
that's
left,
the
right? Like,
that would be the
like
book to write, not to make $1,000,000 and tell you how cool you were. It'd be to tell you how fucked up shit was.
yeah,
I
because it was
That
like
would be my book. I would co-write it with somebody else. Like, here, fucked up stories from the front or whatever you
yeah,
wanna
fucked up
call it.
situation in front, and exactly, and it was just like 99% of just nonsense.
Yeah,
Just
just
you're like
complete fucking
just a
stupidity.
circus,
Like, an
and then like one
unbelievable
percent of
amount
the
of
time,
bullshit.
1% of the time, something fucking cool would happen, right? But it was
Yeah,
like it was
that's
garbage.
about it, right?
Yeah,
But, time we got? Fuck, we're doing pretty good.
yeah,
We're doing pretty good. I wanna
yeah,
move on to this whole monetization
yeah.
thing.
Okay, fair enough. Because I got some opinions on the monetization as well. Like I
Well,
guess
there you
it's
go.
almost like
Wade will read our book.
yeah. So
So
I guess like it's kind of like we say in the army, like if you're if young soldiers are fucking around and they're doing stupid shit, you're like, well, what is the chain of command doing? Because like, I'll always say, like, it starts at the top, right? If people at the top aren't really being held accountable, then people at the bottom are fucking running amok as well, right? So I'll look at our like the world we live in right now. Like look at our in Canada. Look at our politicians, right? We've got a prime minister that makes a
Yeah,
salary
what but
of three
that's we're
hundred
not
fifty
gonna
thousand dollars a year.
I'm not gonna teach the troops to emulate him.
No, but what I'm saying is I'm talking like society writ large. So we got a prime minister that makes $350,000 a year. A member of parliament makes about $175,000 a year, right? But these people that have been doing this for anywhere from 4 to 20 years, I mean, that have like our prime minister has a net value of over $100 million.
Yeah, but he's got
Like, how
old
does a guy who
family
makes
money.
$350,000 a year have a net value of over $100 million?
I don't know, he gets kickbacks from Saudi Arabia by fucking blocking
What I'm
Alberta
saying, what I'm
oil.
saying is that he's
I don't
but it's,
fucking
it's,
know.
it's not just him. There's other people that have net
Sure.
values that are worth tens of millions of dollars who make $150,000, $175,000 a year. How is that possible? Like I have friends that make 170, $200,000 a year, and they don't have no net value of $100 million plus.
Okay.
Not in the span of like under a decade. Not a chance. So what I'm saying is that you have these politicians that are using the information that they have to get rich.
Yeah.
So what
And
you got is
so
you have
let's get into that then.
you have
I
so
Let's be clear. All right, and
yeah.
we talked about this last week before we're gonna do this. I have no problem with anybody monetizing off their military career under two conditions. So pay attention, troops, if you're listening to this. One, you're not embellishing, lying, and you're not stolen valor, as we just covered for the last 35 minutes. Number two, you are not putting current service members and operators at risk by selling fucking TTPs, and we'll dive into this,
uh,
which is techniques, tactics, and procedures, basically how we do our jobs on Patreon. I fucking hate that. You're putting people at risk. So if you're, for example, we talked about this. Let's say you open a sniper school like what Rob runs, Rob Furlong. Okay, famous Canadian sniper. He runs a sniper school, but he has multiple levels of it.
he doesn't just for the record. He doesn't run a sniper school. He runs a marksmanship academy.
Okay.
There's a big difference right
But
there.
he trains different levels of people to do different levels. That's fair. So I digress. He runs a marksmanship academy. So if you're teaching, and snipers is a good example, people how to shoot, that's one thing. But if you're teaching them all the other shit that puts operating snipers at risk based on their TTPs, that's a problem, right? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying, but like yeah. So I mean, fair enough. I get what you're saying. I don't know anybody that's teaching TTPs.
No, not yet. We don't. But if you go on Patreon, there's a million ex SEALs and ex Green Berets and ex Delta guys and ex Rangers showing how to do fucking 4-man stack, CQB, breach doors, all that shit.
Okay, so here's my like reason why they might be doing. Okay, yeah, we're living in a world right now where people are having a tough time to get by. You do 20 years, 25 years in the infantry, you get out, guess what you have? You got sweet fuck up. You got nothing,
You're not
right?
wrong.
So guess what? So now it's like I think I mentioned this before. It's like, okay, if you got thievery, robbing shit is illegal. A thief is a bad thing. But what if somebody's robbing food, to feed their child? It's still
No,
it's
I
still
get that.
thievery. It's still thievery, but like the person's got their back against the wall. So you got this career infantryman, or who's like an urban ops guru, and he's like, I've tried to get jobs elsewhere, to make equivalent money that I was making when I was in, but I can't do it. So he's like, but people want to know what's inside my head, and sometimes they're like, guess what? Like they got to do what they got to do to put food on the table for their family. And if that means that they got to do things like that, well, man, like, so fucking be it. Like I said, we got goddamn corrupt fucking politicians that are willing to fucking sell out this whole goddamn country so they can be multimillionaires.
They will, but I
You got
would
a
never
fucking,
I
you got
wouldn't
a
teach
problem with
fucking
it, with,
I
with,
wouldn't
a,
teach
with an
any
infantry sergeant that's trying to do the same thing.
I understand
I
what
don't,
you're
I don't
saying.
really think that they're giving away fucking secrets that bad that people couldn't find out anyway. A lot of this shit is open source. Like, man, I guarantee you could probably find it anything you want.
No, you're not
Ways
wrong.
to create
Okay,
a
and I'll
program.
give you an example. Here's an example. Okay, and I'll base it on what I did. So open source counter ID has 3 lines of operations: train the force, defeat the device, attack the network. Open source. The specifics of how we do each of those lines of operations, if I was teaching that shit on Patreon, I'm putting current people that are on the ground doing stuff at risk because the enemy can go watch that shit on YouTube.
That's assuming what you're teaching is still current. You've been out
That
for
is
10 years.
obviously the assumption, but until buddy, it's still current. Trust me. We're the last fucking guys to do it, and
Yeah.
you know how fast Canada evolves anything. It's still current.
Yeah,
So
okay, it's current Canada, but is it current like real army?
that's whatever. The point is, that's it. You have to balance that. I understand wholeheartedly what you're saying. There are so many former service members that are on their ass, and if somebody wants to learn and the highest bidder will pay, that's great. But if what you're doing is going to put guys at risk that are currently operating and deployed right now, because the bad guys can watch that, then you're a fucking shitty human being. Go work at Walmart, whatever. That's
Yeah.
my approach to it.
I
That's
guess, but
what I
that
would do.
whole thing of like, okay, you're putting people at risk, like what, like,
Potentially putting people at risk
yeah,
by showing bad guys TTPs, especially when you're getting into that close in stuff.
you
When you're
mean
getting into
showing
CQB,
showing bad guys TTPs, like when we were in Afghanistan for 10 years and they fucking wanted us to fucking train the fucking Afghans? So when we
we
go
did
back there, we
fuck.
gotta fight
Yeah,
them, we gotta
okay.
fight our own TTPs?
You're not wrong.
Just
To a
saying.
point. I'll tell you what, the guys we taught, we didn't show them all the shit we did. It was
No.
very, very limited in what we showed those guys, man. They weren't even allowed to keep C4 and explosives. We had to keep it for them.
Mhm.
We gave them a hook and line kit and a pair of coveralls and said, follow us.
But you probably gave them just enough information to be fucking dangerous and put current service members at risk.
Yeah, but that was the mission. That wasn't me monetizing it later. That was, you'll
So,
train these
okay,
guys
fair,
to do
fair,
this.
fair enough. So it's okay for the government to do, but it's not okay for a private citizen to do.
Hey, man, you're just a fucking, you're just the extension of political will, bro.
Yeah, fair enough. But once I'm out, I'm not. And
I don't know. And once you're not,
no,
you're
no,
right.
no, nobody owns what's inside my head.
No, exactly. And now the onus is upon, your fucking peace of mind of what you're willing to sell and what
Mhm.
you're willing not to sell.
Yeah.
We could argue that to the end of time. I'm just advising guys who are, going to chase this fucking money train. Current serving guys looking to get out, guys that are out looking to make some cash based on their experience. Don't fucking lie and don't put your brothers at risk. That's it. Those are broadband. That left and right of arc's pretty wide, but figure it out. But if you can, like I haven't made money off of anything, but I've volunteer work with search and rescue and shit, teaching cold weather survival and all that crap from basic and advanced winter warfare and stuff like that. That's fine. But I'm not, I wouldn't get into anything specific that a bad guy could use against me, be it somebody overseas or some fucking lunatic mass shooter barricading in a school or something like that. You don't want to give
I
that
guess,
up.
but then like another individual you mentioned earlier was Mike Glover. I mean, he was a
I like what Mike does because Mike's,
sergeant major, Green Beret,
yep,
a
he
fucking
runs a podcast called Fieldcraft.
yeah,
Fieldcraft, just yeah.
yeah.
Mike Glover's
He
the
wrote a
ex
book.
Green Beret.
He wrote a book called Prepared. I mean, this guy's been he was a GRS contractor with
Yep.
CIA, like
Because
badass.
he's showing you CQB from your perspective as Joe Civvy in your house with an intruder coming in.
Yeah.
It's more applicable to the States where
Okay.
you're going to have 8 million guns.
But
But
the
what
funny part
Mike's
about it
doing
was,
is he's not giving away the full meal deal. He's showing you how to defend your house and stuff and how to
okay,
move through a
this is
home.
what
I
okay.
like that.
That's it in your opinion, but Department of Homeland Security listed him as a domestic terrorist.
I know.
So this is the gray area. So like what's giving away secrets and what's not, and moreover, who fucking decides?
Yeah, but he didn't go to jail.
No, but he couldn't even leave the country. This is a guy who's an American patriot, and the country that he served, that he gave his whole fucking life and body and mind for, turn around and call him a fucking terrorist?
Yeah, that's just a slap in the face. But that whole country's totally fucked right now. I mean,
because we're streamlined vision of the future in Canada. We're fucking.
oh, I didn't say we weren't. I didn't say we weren't. We're fucked too. But we're not. I'm not talking about fucking governments and politics and shit. I know you're like going off on that shit, but yeah. Anyway, that's kind of it. We're gonna fucking wrap this thing up.
All right.
I think we've covered our salient points, if you will. So yeah, that's it. Again, I'm not here to smear anybody. I'm not here to smear Marcus Luttrell, Rob O'Neill. I wasn't on your ops. I'm not here to smash Jocko Willink or fucking Chris Kyle, because he's dead. He can't defend himself. So whatever. These are the opinions of one crusty old seal who seems to know a lot. Watch all these pods, our reference material, if you will, to inform your own opinions. And again, the entire point is just I just don't want that uh disease is a strong word, but that fucking epidemic of these billions of podcasts and guys monetizing, and some of them not off shit they actually did, flowing up here as potentially some of our true heroes. And read that these articles in the National Post, this series called Heroes Among Us, and Rick Hillier is a big contributor to that.
The guy actually just I'm gonna say it out
Go
loud.
ahead, yeah.
The individual that they're really pushing for Victoria Cross is there's a soldier by the name of Jess LaRochelle. God rest his soul. He passed away. I think he actually succumbed to his injuries. He got he got
What rota was that?
that was it was I think it was like 306, I believe.
Was
Like
he Van Du?
no, he was RCR. I believe he was one RCR. So,
Probably 106.
no, 106 was
Sorry, no, 107. 306 or 107. Yeah.
306. Yeah, it's probably 306. But
Okay.
anyway, what I'm saying is that that's the individual. And even afterwards, if you look at the article that Rick Hillier wrote, and he actually did an interview as well, because he was on the Honors and Awards committee at the time, and his chain of command, like in typical Canadian fashion, or like they gave him they pushed him forward for a Star of Military Valor. But now, in retrospect, everyone's like, Jesus, we should have put this guy up for a Canadian Victoria Cross.
Oh, fuck, they downgrade everything. But we'll save that for another pod.
Yeah, save it for another day. But anyway, just if anybody's wondering, yeah, go see those interviews and read those articles of Rick Hillier, and the individual in particular is Jess LaRochelle.
Yeah,
Look into that
watch it.
guy's name.
You do have true heroes among us.
Yeah.
Some of these guys I most certainly think are VC worthy.
Yep.
Fortunate to meet one or two of them in my time, and I know fragments and bits of their stories, all collaborated by their brothers.
Yeah.
True fucking acts of valor and heroism.
Quiet professionals.
Very quiet professionals. Didn't bloat their story and go out and
That is
make
the
30
Canadian way,
grand and
though.
speaking engagements and write books and all this. There's some books out there, but they're subtle books that tell a story. You should read them. There's lots. I can't name them all. Maybe I'll try to list them all in the comments section at a later date. But yeah, there's some guys that are standing on potentially getting upgraded. I hope it happens. At least one, maybe two.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Definitely one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, boys, don't fucking get sucked into the money train and wreck your lives. Anyway, that's all I got. So let's wrap this shit up. I want to thank. You're gonna change your name to the Devil's Advocate, man, because that's all you fucking do on this show. Thanks for tuning in. I know I threw you guys a curveball with the date and time group, but it's going to be pretty much every 2 weeks, Tuesday nights now, 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 Eastern. I just want to rattle through a few sponsors. Thanks, Morgan. I'll keep chatting in a second, bro. I still have Positive Mike's Brewing Company. Why doesn't this show up? There we go. You can get the gear. You can't get the beer. I hope he's still selling his gear. He's got some pretty good swag, man. It's quality stuff. I have the beer. I'm just about out, Mike, but I still have it. It's really good beer. Can't thank him enough. The Veteran Farmer, the guys that help me out with all of my, if you're a veteran going through your Veterans Affairs stuff and you're looking for alternative pain and mental management stuff, these guys will help you work with your path to alternative solutions to conventional medicine. I'll just leave it at that. And they've helped me out a lot. Last but not least, my main man, Mr. Jeff None and his family out at Lakeside Farmstead, just north of Edmonton. Amazing dairy products and the best beef you can get in Alberta. I am just about ready for a top up to get ready for tailgate season for the CFL kickoff. So if you're in the Edmonton area, I strongly suggest you drive just north of Edmonton. You can find them on the internet, how to get out there. And they got a storefront outside, and they sell their products all over the city. And it's some of the most amazing dairy and beef, Wagyu cross beef products you're ever going to find. And if you like radio, I have a radio show called Mixtape with Army Chris. It is every Thursday and Saturday nights at 7 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I strongly suggest you check that out. Until then, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And we'll get at you guys in about 2 weeks. So take care and enjoy spring.